Let's just a second. Let's get started.
All right. Welcome to RAVE Miami, everybody. My name is Eric Smith. I'm the owner and president of Redwood Art Group. We're so happy to have you joining us tonight. We've got quite a lineup. I'm going to tell you a little bit about last night. It was awesome. We filled up 2 hours of great talking, great discussions, and some superstars like Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction, the artist Padilla from LA, Risk, famous graffiti artist from LA, and many others. It was really, really fun. Dave and Padilla are founders of Dual Diagnosis. So we had a little bit at the beginning about, the pandemic and mental health. And it was really relaxing, and it just kicked off the evening to a great event. The purpose of RAVE is to keep our community together. You, the artists, the galleries, and of course, all of you joining us tonight, the collectors. Our goal is to create a positive virtual experience, to get to know the artists in the galleries. So oftentimes when you attend our shows, you're running around with a glass of wine in your hand or going over to the Bullet Bourbon booth or checking this out. And you don't get time to really sit down with the artists and get to know what they're about. And we're going to do that tonight. I want to explain a little bit how the RAVE site works. So you see on to the right, you have a chat room, and you can go in there and compliment the artist, whatever you'd like to do. And my wife, Kelly, is answering some of those chats. There's a guest book on every page. So if you look at the top, you'll see exhibitors. And you can click on that and start shopping around the site. At the bottom of every exhibitor page is a guest book. And if you want to get to know that artist, just go ahead and fill it in, and they'll reach back out to you. They get an email automatically. So tonight, on any of the pieces you buy tonight, there's free freight in the continental United States, which saves you sometimes up to $500. And we have a special treat. Last night, Gatsby and the team of Dave Padilla from Jane's Addiction or Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction and Padilla created a new piece of art. And we've created a limited edition of 50 of those. They're valued at about $1,000. So any piece of art you buy tonight, you get a free print. And it's the first 50 people tonight. So last night, I remember, I talked to Gatsby today, one of our artists that we had on last night, and he sold like 10 pieces yesterday, which was fantastic. I think I'm going to start tonight by pouring a glass of champagne and letting you know that we're so happy to have Pommery Champagne sponsoring our event. Masson Pommery has been a major player in the world of art since its creation. And to stay faithful to the memory and the will of Madame Pommery, they continue exhibiting contemporary art as the main thrust of their patronage. And Laura, can we play a quick video? It's 1.5 minutes. And underneath where their cellars are, they keep their wines, and they also have a cool contemporary art collection. I think you're really going to enjoy this. I did. so you can download their app. I can't wait till the pandemic is over and we can get on a plane and fly over and visit their chateau. It looks awesome. Laura, let's head over to Miami and bring in Rami Rotkopf. Rami's an art dealer and friend of mine for the past 30 years. He owns Blue Gallery in Delray Beach, Florida, and Smart Publishing. And we're gonna pick Rami's brain about what it's like to be an art dealer, an art gallery owner, and a publisher of many artists. Welcome, Rami.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
I see you're in your gallery.
Cheers.
Cheers. You must take a drink now. You can't cheers without having a drink. My daughter's sitting over here drinking at the same time. So Rami, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the art business?
Hi, everybody. I got started when I was about 15 years old. My parents owned an art gallery in Tel Aviv, Israel. And that's how I got into the art business. Since I was 15 years old, I used to go with my father to art shows in his gallery, to openings, to help him move art. So all my life, I was involved in this atmosphere. When I was 18, actually, I made my first purchase and I saved some money and bought some painting and got it into my father gallery. And I started buying and selling art. Later on, I went to the army when I was 18. When I was 22, I came to America after the army, and right away I started going to art galleries, making connections. I spent 2.5 years in the US, get back to Israel, and opened my gallery over there. But I still used to come back and forth from Tel Aviv to Florida and sell art in wholesale.
When did you do your first art expo?
My first art expo was at 91.
91.
That was like almost 29 years ago.
Yeah. I think that was my first art expo too, I think, 1990.
Yeah. Then we met and we're doing art expo since.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I had 2 booths, and with time, I had more booths at your show until today.
Yeah.
29 years of doing art expo.
Yeah. Well, it was a different business then, right?
At that time, it was completely different. We used to sell more limited edition serigraphs and originals, but everything was different 29 years ago, you know?
It was. It was a completely different industry, I know.
It was.
Yeah.
The business changed through the years.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so the audience knows, in those days, there were a number of what we called publishers, and we published a lot of work at Martin Lawrence Galleries, as Rami did with Smart Publishing and Delview and Progressive, and there were a number of big publishing companies out there, and they would go to Art Expo. It was the gathering place. Once a year,
Right.
you would the galleries would buy wholesale, and then, you know, obviously sell the collections of the artists to collectors. And that's the way the business worked. And after digital printing came along, everything kind of went away. Artists couldn't afford to make, you know, an edition of 300 serigraphs because it cost 25 grand and they just couldn't afford it. That's what publishing companies did.
Right.
Yeah.
At that time, I also owned a printing facility in Israel for serigraphs. So that was our main business. You know, we exhibited maybe 20 different images of limited editions at a show, and galleries used to come and used to take orders, give me one of this, one of that.
Yeah.
And that was the main business at that time.
Yeah.
Before the digital printing came around 2006, something like that.
Yeah.
So until then,
The digital print changed the industry and the internet.
Yeah, yeah. The digital print changed the industry and the internet. The internet came just around that time.
Yeah.
But until that time, we were selling, we had programs for galleries to carry the limited edition serigraphs.
Right. And the way you'd sell it is you'd buy an ad in Art Business News.
The way to say it is to buy art in Art Business News, and we bought a lot of ads.
Yeah. I know that magazine used to be like 200 pages at one time, you know. It's gone like
Right.
every.
At that time, we put an ad and the phone starts ringing. And
Right.
we used to ship.
Right. Yeah. Different time then.
Different times, but you know, every time have its benefits. Like today, we're selling more unique works, more original works. We're still selling the limited edition serigraphs, which we still have a lot of leftovers from those days. And we're printing giclées. The new limited editions today are the giclées.
Right. Right. Prints are still selling. I mean, you can see this Takashi Murakami piece
Sure.
behind me, right?
They are, but they are giclée printing and not silk screen printing, mainly.
Digital prints, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it's still fun to collect prints once in a while. I can't afford an original.
You know, I'm sure that 10 years from now, it's going to be a comeback. People are going to look for the seal screens, and it's going to be like a form of collectible items, like retro collectible items. And I believe it's going to come back in about 10 years because it's a cycle. Everything is cycle.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of silk screens out there.
There is.
So I got two questions for you. One is, how long does it take to establish an artist and make him, I wouldn't say a household name, but almost a household name, you know, where he's known enough where people recognize the name and they see the image. And, you know, like I have so many of our artists that come to me and say, you know, I need help here, or can you help manage my career, or can you do this? And the first thing I kind of tell them is, you know, when you see a Picasso, you know it's a Picasso, right? So how do you help them establish themselves?
The way I'm doing it, you know, I'm adding every year an artist or two artists to my gallery collection. First of all, I'm taking somebody that I feel that he's good, that he talks to me, that I'm getting connected to that. And I think that it's going to be, there's a potential there. And then we start taking to art shows, like Art Expo and other shows that there is in the market. And we fill the market. We put it in the gallery, we test it out, we take some advertisement in your magazines. And it's take a good 3 to 5 years just for people to paying attention to this artist.
Yeah.
They have to look at it, to see him, to come back to it, to get used to the look, get used to what he's doing, see him in this show, in that show. So it grows, but it takes between 3 to 5 years, if I have to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Before he's getting into the market and people notice him.
Right. Would you like to walk around a little bit and highlight a few of your artists for us tonight?
Sure, let me change the side of the camera. Okay. And I'm going to have some guests here. Like this is David Schluss. Hey, David, say hello.
Hey, hi. I haven't seen you in a while. You're looking good.
David, by the way, David is 78 and he have two little girls.
I know.
5 and 10. So that's what keeps him young.
It's unbelievable. You're like Anthony Quinn.
He is.
Good to see you.
This is Mark Klipp. He's an artist that we carry for the last 5 years. So let me show you a little bit of their work. This is a bronze sculpture.
Yeah, that's
Mark. It's a hand-painted bronze sculpture. Mark Klipp is from New York, and he's a street artist, and you can see it in his work.
Right.
This is his painting.
Is that Bowie?
That's Bowie.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that's a nice big bulldog that he created lately.
I have one of his bulldogs.
Yeah, you do, in your office.
I bought it in New York when you were there.
Yes. And this is one of his late paintings.
So Mark uses auto paint on those bulldogs, right?
Yeah, he's using auto paints. And for example, this walk is on aluminum, and he's using auto paints and he's coating it in the end with the car lacquer. So it have a shiny finish to it.
How long does it take Mark to do a painting like that?
To Mark, it takes about 2 months for a painting like that.
Yeah, layer after layer after layer.
Layers after layers, and then you have to take it to do the lacquer, and he polish it, and there's 5 layers of lacquer to get this kind of finish.
Right.
This is David Schluss.
Yep.
And
David's work is so recognizable, and that's what I was talking about earlier. When you see a Schluss painting, you know it's a Schluss painting. When you see a Picasso, you know it's a Picasso. You see a Monet, you know it's a Monet. And
and David Schluss is today is in those categories. You know, he's in a big private collections.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about David Schluss that he's painting with his fingers.
It's amazing.
So he mixed the color on the canvas with his fingers.
Right. Really well done. He's got great color palette there.
He does. David, Eric likes your work.
Thanks. Thanks for sticking around after you close tonight so we can tour the gallery a little bit. It's much appreciated.
Okay.
So tell me, Rami, you have any celebrity collectors down there in Florida?
Actually, we do. We have a lot of business people, a lot of CEO of companies. I have some of them are the directors of cruise line in the cruise line industry, some bankers, some actors, some of them you know. You met some. I introduced you to some of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a good idea to mention the names because you know people like to be private when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But definitely they come to the gallery. This is we have a 10,000 square foot gallery here. So
in Delray Beach. So
Delray Beach.
Yeah. And they have a great tennis tournament there.
There is. Actually, it's like 2 blocks from me.
I know. So in 2022, I'll make plans to come out there, go to the tennis tournament, and then I can come visit you again.
You know what? It won't be a bad idea to make a show in Delray Beach.
Maybe. We'll try one day.
To think about it.
Well, let's say goodnight to Rami. You have anything to add?
It was a pleasure for me to be here and share my gallery and take you through a tour. And I'm sure I'm going to see you at the next shows.
Yep. I can't wait to get back to live events.
Me too. You know what? We'll miss it.
So if anybody out there wants to look at any of Rami's work and the gallery work, just go to Blue Gallery on the RAVE site, and you can shop around there. Yeah, Kelly and I did buy a bulldog about 3 years ago, I think, while we were at our show in New York. I fell in love with them. Rami had just come out with them and from Mark Lip, and we made a deal on one of his bulldogs. So I appreciate him joining us tonight. I think we're gonna highlight a few artists now. We have time for that, Laura. Let's go to Duke Windsor. There he is. I've never met Duke, but he was in the Marines and he was a drill sergeant, and he looks like he was a drill sergeant. He looks like he'd crush your hand when he came to shake it. but he's a fabulous painter. He's from San Diego, and I'm kind of guessing this is the Mission Hills district of San Diego, right? I especially love these pieces that Laura is scanning by now. Where's the Beef? These are like, I think I remember they were about 18 by 18 or 17 by 17. They're only $1,500, but the work is impeccable. I mean, it is absolutely fantastic. And he's really good in the use of light. You can see it in the street scenes and in the cheeseburger scenes. Really excellent work. So I kind of wanted to give it, look at that last piece, cracked, yeah, that one there. I mean, that is really well done. So welcome to the Redwood Art Group family, Duke. The next artist we're going to highlight is the GEBHARDT Gallery. And Chris and Angela GEBHARDT have been working with our company for, I don't know, I think about 7 years now. And I'm going to tell you a really quick story. So Chris GEBHARDT is, it's a husband and wife team. And Chris and I kind of got to be friends at our show, and he invited me to Indiana to French Lick, to the West Baden Hotel, which used to be the largest dome in the United States until they built the Superdome. And he wanted to talk to me about doing a show there. And I'm like, Chris, who the hell is going to go to West Baden, French Lick, Indiana to produce a show? And we kind of turned it into this artist seminar thing. That's what we were talking about. We never did the project, but he invited us there. Now, Chris is on the board of this large hotel, and they have gaming there and the full golf course and tennis courts and a bowling alley. And it's absolutely incredible. He's on the board because he's a personal trainer and a healthy eater, kind of like my daughter Hannah with her Fine with Food. And he actually takes clients on that are medically ill and helps them live longer. And he did that for a gentleman named Bill Cook Industries, who made the heart stint. So anyway, we get to West Baden, and I take my wife Kelly and my daughter Hannah and her friend Michelle. And Chris says, look, Eric, I want you to enjoy the place. I'm going to take you to dinner tonight and tell you my story. And then I want you to enjoy the resort for a couple days. We have to leave. Anything you want, you just sign for, because he's on the board. So Hannah and Michelle get up the next day, and I said, let's go for a hike. Why don't we go horseback riding? Let's go bowling. What else did we do? we went to the best restaurant for dinner, and Hannah's like, Dad, what is going on? This is like the greatest trip ever. And I said to Hannah and Michelle, I said, well, actually, the GEBHARDTs are picking up the tab because, you know, they're on the board of the resort. What do you want for dinner? And Michelle says, lobster and steak for everyone. We really enjoyed ourselves and enjoyed meeting Chris and Angela. But a little bit about their work. They have come so far. They are full-time artists now. They drive a huge motorhome with a garage in the back for their big paintings. I love their work. It's it just jumps off the wall, and it really dominates the wall. You can see some of their work that Laura was scanning through there. So I definitely think you should check them out. And the last artist before we get into our next session is Joseph R. Locke. Joseph's a fine art photographer from New York. He grew up surrounded by New York City's inspiration and fell in love with the power of the camera. So stop there, Laura. You can see that he takes these black and white photos, adds a little bit of color. That's where your eye hits. And then you kind of like search around the rest of the photograph. The Brooklyn Bridge is spectacular. But he can definitely, I love the car piece too, 57 Bel Air. And photography is easy to collect. It's usually well priced, under $2,500. And you know, you kind of get what you're looking at. There's no deep meanings to it or anything like that. A lot of beginning collectors start with photography. So a little shout out to Joseph Locke. So thanks, Laura. Let's go to our next panel. I'd like to introduce you to Krista Cloutier. Krista is an art educator and owns The Working Artist. She speaks at many of our live events, including Art Expo New York. and was recently honored as an influencer in the contemporary art world by LinkedIn. Craig Cosson is the president of Chuck Jones Center for Creativity and Chuck Jones Galleries, and also happens to be the grandson of Chuck Jones. We all know Chuck Jones. I mean, who didn't love the Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner? I mean, come on. And Karen Bronze is a former actress and model turned artist, originally from Sweden, and now resides in Montreal. And the three of them and myself are going to talk about the new contemporary. And so we've picked three mediums for that. One is, which Krista's expertise is, photography. One is animation, obviously Craig Cosson and Chuck Jones there. And the last of being pop prints. Karen recently created a new series of prints about endangered species, and they've got a pop feel to them, kind of like Andy Warhol did. They're very colorful, and they start at $6.95. So that's kind of the new contemporary, easy to collect pieces, and that's what we're going to talk to you about tonight. So we're coming to you from Montreal, Karen, France, Krista. What time is it, Krista?
Late. It's tomorrow.
And Craig's with me in California. So we're going to kind of bounce around, but the theme is animation, the pop prints, and the photography. So Craig, tell us how you got into the business of art.
I was born. That was the way it all started. Now, I'm a computer engineer by training, and obviously, as you said, my grandfather is Chuck Jones, passed away in 2002, but I grew up around him, and my mother started the art business 43 years ago. And so I got pulled into it to automate it in the early 90s. And then it was all of a sudden, instead of being a computer engineer working, nights and weekends and 100-hour weeks and things like that, all of a sudden now I'm in the art business around fun things, working 100-hour weeks. So, it was a little different, but it was very, very fun. And so I got to spend a lot of time with Chuck, and I opened our first galleries 30 years ago. And so we've got the Chuck Jones Galleries, and I just kind of got pulled into the family business. So they sucked me in, and then they didn't let me go.
That's great. How about you, Krista? How did you get in the art business?
Well, I went to art school like a lot of artists and wanted to do that career path, but had a lot of student debt, needed to get the real job, ended up getting a job at an art studio, part-time assistant to the sales director, thought I would just do this for a year or so. And instead I became director of the company. Turns out that selling art was my secret superpower. And ended up spending the majority of my career in the art business, selling art for other artists, collaborating with other artists. It was an incredible experience, a really glamorous position. But when I had my midlife correction, I realized that I am an artist and I had stopped making. So I quit, sold all of my possessions, moved to Europe by myself so that I could find that artist who lived inside of me, and went back to my own art.
And we're going to talk about your storytelling in a bit.
Okay.
Save that because it's fantastic. Hi, Karen. Karen, you're on mute. There you go.
Not anymore.
Oh, the Rams. Look at that. Looks
Yep.
awesome. Yeah. So tell us when did you start painting?
I've been painting my whole life. I started back in Sweden when I was a kid. And I think the first activity, my main activity was painting. I just loved it. And I left Sweden when I was 18, and I've been traveling a lot. And I always loved to paint. It was like my go-to, when especially through stressful times. It was like my way of disappearing from reality and just zoom in on it. And I've been in America since 2012. I
Right.
came to the US without knowing an American soul, and it was kind of stressful. I wanted to be an actor, and I started to do it professionally 6 years ago.
Good for you. And I'm going to give you a cheers for becoming a U.S. citizen this year. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's amazing.
So Craig, animation is a huge collectible today. Tell me why people collect animation and then move on after the animation collection to maybe buy some of the Chuck's originals, right?
Yeah, so I think the Chuck used to talk about it because why, you know, he even said, you know, if you didn't know the characters, especially with the works that include his most famous characters like Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner and Coyote and Pepe Le Pew and all those characters that he helped create or created over at Warner Brothers in the 30s to the 60s and 70s. You know, you wouldn't put a work of art like that on your wall, because he said it was kind of like having a picture of your favorite uncle on your wall. You know, it's got to be something that you connect with. And so if you didn't know the characters, it might be a beautiful painting. It may be, and because he is a traditionally trained fine artist at Chouinard Art Institute back in the late 20s, and with people like Millard Sheets and many of the figurative works and many of the fine art that we have on the RAVE event this weekend were created either during his post years studying with Don Graham at Chouinard, or just him painting. The idea of, you know, him honing his craft of fine art. And, you know, when Krista, you were talking about leaving the US and going to Europe and whatnot. And he said when he came out of art school at the age of, you know, he just turned 18 in 1929, and he had the dream. And he said, if any great artist had that, any sort of dream about being an artist, they would, you know, dream about moving to Paris and the Champs-Elysees and painting the beautiful women and dying at a ripe old age of 37. You know, that would be the, but he said that, you know, he figured out when he got out of art school that you had to, you know, make money to die poor. And, you know, because you had to get there and so, you know, he stumbled into the animation business and created these, and it was unplanned. And, you know, it was a burgeoning art form back then in the 30s. And then he created all these things that people then resonated with, you know, for 6 generations, now into 7 generations with these Looney Tunes characters and others like the Grinch. But, you know, it's that memory, it's that feeling, it's that, and I guess that's about anything. I mean, I look at these lovely ladies and their artwork, and I think, you know, it stirs something inside you. And that, I think, is why you collect any artwork. You know, if you're collecting artwork because you think it's going to be, you know, important someday, then you're not doing it right. You know, when you, and I've heard artists and I've heard collectors say this, when you find that work of art that fits you, it grabs you by the throat and it strangles you until you put it in your home. And literally, it's that visceral reaction to it. So, you know, why do people collect it? It's because it brings a smile to your face. It brings joy to your heart. It brings a memory. I was at a show one time in San Francisco, and a couple came in, and I traveled with Chuck to many shows, and they said, "Oh, we have 7 of your works of art, and we have it, you know, in our home." And he said, "Oh, where do you have them in your home? Like in the living room?" And he said, "No. We live in sort of that boxcar sort of place here in San Francisco, and we've got the bedroom at one end, a long hallway that goes down, and then we've got the restroom and the kitchen and the living room at the other end. So we put them all down the hallway, because when you come out of the bedroom in the morning, by the time you pass all of that artwork, you have to be in a good mood by the time you get to the bathroom. And that's the way we start every single day." And it sort of was that, you know, that it buoys you up. It gives you that memory. It feels like you've got that favorite uncle sitting on. And I guess, you know, since they are Chuck's children, you know, Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes, all those, they considered them his children. They came from inside of him, that they are sort of my aunts and uncles. So, you know, it is kind of a favorite uncle that I have on my walls. But you know, he's been not only collected all over the world, I think he's been collected in over 200 countries. Certainly his cartoons have been seen all over the world for decades and decades. And he's had museum exhibitions in Museum of Modern Art, Smithsonian traveling exhibitions for years. So it's that old friend. It's that feeling that you get from seeing this stuff. And he's a pretty successful guy, you know, in his film career and his art career throughout the time. So, you know, it's fun to put that artwork around you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, timeless musicians and bands like Zeppelin or the Beatles or Van Morrison or Bowie or the Rolling Stones. And I mean, even today they still play the Grinch How the Grinch Stole Christmas every year, you know?
Yeah, we just did it. I told you, you know, we just had a show, you know, 2 hours on the history of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And it was like, wow, this is 54 years later, and it's still an amazing classic, and how it came to be, and all of that. And you know, you talk about music, and historians are now identifying that there are really 3 indigenous art forms in the United States. One is jazz, one is the Broadway show, and one is animation. And so, you know, everything else sort of filtered in, but those are the 3 art forms that really had their beginnings here. And Chuck was one of those guys who was fortunate enough to be a part of that, you know, in the late 20s and the early 30s, and then, you know, for 70 years after that. So, yeah.
All right, let's go back to France.
Let's go to France.
As we're talking to Krista, I want you to notice the wall behind her. Oh my goodness. It's got to be like a foot thick, right? So
it's thick. It's 600 years old, this wall.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last time it was painted too.
Krista, share with the audience about how you incorporate the storytelling in your work. And I think Laura's going to put up some of your booth page so we can kind of follow that here.
Oh, that's nice. You know, I think art and story have gone hand in hand since the beginning of time. If you look at cave paintings, they're telling a story. If you look at the paintings from the Middle Ages, the great religious paintings, they're telling a story. And I believe that all art tells a story. It really does. I just think sometimes the artist, well, we all have to listen to hear the story, but the artist has to listen sometimes too. For me, I've always been a writer, and I've always been a photographer. And when I found myself as an artist again, that was when I learned that I could put them together. And this work this series is called And She Lived Happily Ever After. And it takes the viewer on a story. So it's meant to be read or seen in order, but also each individual piece tells a story as well. And it's my hope that the viewer can go through, because it's a story about love. It's a story about a broken heart. It's a story about transformation. You know, we all have broken hearts, sometimes from a love affair, sometimes from a broken dream, but you know, it's part of the human condition. And so I hope the viewers can see themselves in my story too.
Yeah, they're well done. And we were talking about you today with Laura and Linda and Hannah and Kelly and I, and yeah, they love the story. So I encourage everybody watching to go check out your pages, and they can read each of the clips that you put in there. It's wonderful.
Thanks.
And if there's any artists watching, Krista's a wonderful teacher and kind of a guidance counselor. And she speaks at our events, and she's been a friend of ours for a long time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Karen, let's talk about your new series, Pop of the Wild.
Yeah.
One off the pop art movement and your love of animals. So why don't you tell us about the new series a little bit?
Well, it started actually as a mistake. I was doing the Beverly Hills Art Show a couple of months ago, and I think 3 of the images got distorted. And right at that time, Hannah, Redwood's social media expert, your daughter, sitting there probably drinking, was posting and believed that those images were the originals. And then you, Eric, gave me the idea saying, hey, why not try something different? And for me, first thinking, wow, doing like prints, like digital stuff, sitting from the computer and creating all those like colors and stuff, I was thinking, wow, that might be strange and weird, but it turned out pretty good, I think.
Turned out really good. In fact, the first time I saw the Instagram mistake, I thought, well, that's really cool. It kind of looks like Andy Warhol's Endangered Species series.
Yeah.
And I sold a lot of those in the 80s and 90s. And the endangered species have changed, you know, since the Warhol days to today. And there's new endangered species, and you've picked up on those. And I also see like the chimps right there. They have emotion in their eyes, right?
Yeah, and that's what I love to capture in my paintings, their eyes.
These aren't photographs. You've actually painted these and then used the
Yeah, so these are from my authentic signature pieces. I do animal couples, and I love, not the peacock there, but I love to focus on endangered animals. And that's what I did. I took my old originals and played around with the colors.
Right.
And made them pop.
They're really well done.
Thank you.
And so those are digital prints on.
Yep.
And then what's backing them? Aluminum or?
Yes.
Yeah.
These are actually just some prints, but yeah. Paper.
And they're nice and big. You know, for $695. Yeah, $695. It's a lot of art. They look great.
Thank you.
Craig, I want to look at a few of your pieces and have you talk about Chuck a little bit more. Bus Q London is a piece that I really liked on your page. I think Laura's pulling that up.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, there's our new gallery.
Because
London, yeah.
You can totally see that it's Chuck Jones. I mean,
yeah, I think that's that's probably the most popular fine art work that we've offered over the years. And as I said, you know, he started at Chenard and throughout his life continued to study and paint. And my father and mother were in Berlin during the war. My dad was in counterintelligence in Berlin with the army, and my mom went over there to work with the army as well. And so every now and then they would travel, and Chuck and my grandmother would go visit, and they would travel together. And so Chuck, they would go to Denmark, they would go to Norway, they would go to Amsterdam, they would go to London here, they would go to Germany. There's one down below that's called Nescafé that is also there. But you know, they were studies that were done, and that's the Dutch seaport there. So as he traveled, he would paint, and so these oftentimes they were sketches done before and then paintings done later. But the Bus Q London shows so much about the caricature abilities. He actually started before he got into animation doing caricatures on Olvera Street, which is a sort of a tourist trap here in downtown LA. And he said, I don't know why people paid me $1 to do caricatures back in the 20s, but he was doing them. And you can see that in the Bus Q London, sort of that exaggerated posing in the faces of the people on the street. He, you know, captured those. He would take notes. When I was growing up, he always had a satchel with many sketch pads and pencils and pens and whatnot. And he took notes on life in those sketchbooks. And so, you know, that being a watercolor that was then, these are many prints. There are some originals in here, but, you know, as I look through here, it's such a diverse thing. He was always studying and growing and trying to figure out how to do things better. And I think that was, if anything, it was what personified Chuck, in that he was never satisfied. He won 4 Academy Awards. He was given the Arts de Chevalier Award from the arts in France. He was, you know, the directors, all these different things. But he said, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But I'm going to put that back on the shelf and say, what's next? And so each of these works of art has to do with how to advance him as an artist, him as a human being, how to express himself, how to communicate with others. And so And I think that's what I heard from these other artists, and certainly listening to the other symposiums. It's about the expression. And Krista was talking about the story. And, we run the Chuck Jones Center for Creativity, as you had mentioned. And, I was one of the founders in 1999 when Chuck was still alive. And really, it was based on the premise that Chuck identified, and he said that every single person has a creative genius inside of them. And it comes out in many different ways. Some of them is art, some of them in business, some of them in teaching, some of them in medicine, some of them in all these different ways, but everybody has a unique creative genius inside of them. And the sooner that we identify who that is today and express that and learn how to get better at that, the better off the world and we ourselves are going to be. And so I think that's why I'm so, inspired, Eric, by you and your team deciding in the middle of this bizarre time to do something different, to do something new, to continue to communicate the beauty of what we do in the art business. Because, I remember in 2008, the week after the stock market crashed, in the beginning of the Great Recession, and you and I, sat there, you'd asked me to do the keynote speech that year at Art Expo, and we both sat in the corner going, this doesn't feel good. But I remember you got up to introduce me and you said, you know what? People have been selling and buying artwork for thousands of years. And today is not going to be any different. We're going to go through struggles. We're going to go through hard times, but we are going to get through this together. And what you guys have decided to do with this rave and continue to do this during this time, I just applaud you, because you guys are amazing. And I'm excited to be a part of it. And I look at these ladies and, brilliant artists, and think, what, you continue to do it. So thank you and your whole team for having this platform to continue to inspire thousands of people.
Well, thank you. That was unexpected, but I appreciate it. Yeah. It actually, to let everybody know, we kind of started putting this together, and then over the last couple of weeks, man, it got really intense. I mean, it was like putting on a regular live event. Kelly wasn't coming to bed until 1 o'clock in the morning. She's putting in images and everything. And oh my God. So, my hat's off to Kelly and Linda and Laura and Hannah and, everybody who worked on this. So, yeah.
And think what's going to happen next time, Eric. One is going to be better, and Kelly, it's going to be even bigger. So you're never going to go to sleep.
So Krista, back to you. What are your final thoughts? What do you think about the future of the art business?
The future of the art business. I wish I had a magic ball to tell you, but I will tell you this. The art business, like the world, has been through a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of people have said, it's all over, party's over. That's not true. That's never been true before. I've seen recessions before. I've seen wars. I've seen lots of things happen, and art always survives. Art always has survived. So for any artist out there, keep making. I think art is more important now than it's ever been, and your work is important. And I also am really pleased to see that this event is going on, because it brings us together. These conversations are important to have. We've all been isolated, and hopefully we're all still making, but to come together like this and to share what we're doing, it's really powerful, and it's going to help move us forward, hopefully to something even better.
So Anthony Deljoux was on last night, and another big publishing company out of Atlanta, and he had signed on at 6 o'clock East Coast time yesterday, and he said, I was just going to check it out for 5 minutes, because he didn't come on till 7:30, right? And he said, I haven't left. I've been glued to this, and now I remember why I got into the art business, which was awesome to hear Anthony say that he loved the Dave Navarro gig. And I kind of thought, uh-oh, I think I heard about 20 F-bombs last night on the thing. It all worked out really good. I mean, I was getting texts left and right from people who are like, this is awesome. So yeah, that was fun. And thank you guys joining us and, you know, sharing your gift with a lot of the collectors that are watching tonight. You know, I think you heard me at the beginning. We had over 1,100 people last night, so that was shocking to me. That was really great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Kristen. And thank you, Craig. And you can check out all of their booths on the RAVE site. And I'm going to remind everybody that if you do purchase a piece of art through the month of December, you get free freight and you get a free art print if you're one of the first 50 people by the print by Gatsby and Dual Diagnosis. So we saw a little sneak peek of that last night when Gatsby was in his studio and we were interviewing him. It was behind him. So you can watch the video from last night if you didn't catch it. Okay, we're going to highlight a few more artists and then move on to the next panel. The first artist is David ZEISET. This guy's really interesting. When I first saw his work, I just didn't know how he constructed it. And then I did a little more digging in and I love the love knot. I mean, it's three-dimensional. He paints on plywood. His color palette is just extraordinary. And, you know, for $3,500, I mean, I can't believe it. So the pieces really jump off your wall. And then some of them he puts on a black canvas, like that one to the right, Venus. But he's really good with color. And I had not experienced his work before until he joined the RAVE event, but he's one of my highlights. The next one is Carol Carpenter. And Carol uses a saturated palette, and you'll see that when we get to her work, to create vivid works of organic art. She gets her inspiration by nature, from nature, and you can see, like, go back up to coastal, yeah, that coastal one. You get some blues in there, and you can really see how the title kind of tells the story of what it is, high seas on the left, scary. But wonderful color and a nice addition to anybody's home, that's for sure. Really well done. And the last artist in this little highlight is Christian Koo. This guy's work is pretty incredible. It's almost like optic art. There's artists that I used to sell, Vasarely, Agam, famous artists in museums. And it's a little bit of optic art on those top pieces. His pieces are mounted on aluminum. They're digital prints and they're mounted on aluminum and protected by plexiglass. Very modern. I think they look great in any house in Florida, certainly here in Palm Springs. I mean, the work it's pretty cutting edge and cool. Those reds really pop on that black. So I like his work, Christian Koo. You can check out their booths. I'm now going to introduce Hannah Smith, sitting next to me. Hannah's our social media director and has been with Redwood Art Group for 3 years, as well as my daughter. She directs all of our social media. So anytime you see an Instagram post, Facebook,
Twitter,
LinkedIn. I don't even have a Twitter. LinkedIn, that's all posted by Hannah. So you can DM her on that, any of our sites in our company, and she responds right away. She also runs her own blog called Fine with Food. She's likes to stay fit and likes to cook, and it's a pretty good blog, tells me what to eat, so keeps me healthy.
And I do want to say, all your posts this weekend and throughout the month of December, make sure you guys tag Redwood Art Group so we can see you all, and make sure to give us a follow too. So for our next segment, we've picked 5 artists and we're going to step inside their studio. And all of these artists have had tremendous success at our fairs and in their own art careers. And I say we do some artist speed dating and get to know them a little better.
Okay. Why don't we start with George Sadis? Bring George in. George, unmute yourself and click video. There you go.
We got
Hey.
it. Yep. Hello, everyone. Hi.
Good to see you.
Likewise, likewise. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we had a big crowd last night. Hopefully you have a pretty big crowd tonight. So just relax. Hopefully you have a drink in front of you and you can tell us about the Parsons School of Design. Let's start there.
Parsons School of Design. Wow. All right. That was an amazing experience for me. That was basically the place where I was able to express everything I had trapped in me my whole life, basically. I was getting like 2 or 3 hours sleep a night for like 4 years, just doing all the projects with crazy enthusiasm. The teachers, they were really good, and they helped me to basically take all that raw sort of raw talent, for raw creativity, and help me focus it and make it more sophisticated as I went along.
Do you have to apply to get into Parsons?
Yes, I had to apply.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was accepted, and actually it was the only art school I applied to. I had done many other things prior to that. I was in medical school actually before that, and I didn't want to continue that as a career. So I made a huge jump, and I said, all right, listen, I'm going to take a chance on this, and let's see. And I asked a friend of mine at the time who said, Parsons has a great photography program. And I was like, okay, let's try it out. And so I applied, and within, I think it was within 10 days, I got an acceptance email, and I was like, I was stoked. And I just went forward with it.
And then you did a stint in the auto industry, right?
Yes. So when I was in my second year, in my sophomore year in Parsons, I had won awards for 2 images that they had displayed, and you can see them from the street on 5th Avenue and 13th Street. And someone from the division of EMI, her name was Karen Brown, and she was in the what was called the Enclave. And she really liked the images, and she called Parsons, and she called my portfolio in. And when I went to her office, literally within the week, she goes, stop, okay, hold on. I was like, what? She goes, I'm gonna call a friend of mine. Like, okay. And she's talking, she goes, hey, Jamie, there's some really cool cars here, and some, I got a guy from an art school. And basically he told her over the phone, well, have him connect with me. And within 2 weeks, I got my first gig for Car Magazine in London. And then it just spun off from there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I remember we had a guy working for us, Rick Barnett, right? You know,
Yes.
Rick. And Rick was calling me one day, you got to see this guy's work. You got to see this guy's work. Laura, why don't we show a little bit of George's work while I continue our conversation with him, because it's pretty fantastic. Now, Rick is a real car nut, you know that. So he's got like 10 to 12, something like that.
He's got some nice cars, that's for sure.
I love, yeah, and these pieces are absolutely terrific. The color just explodes, and I know you and I had a discussion of the Batmobile, right?
Yeah, that was my first. If I try to think back to what is my first memory, conscious memory in this life, it always comes back to me as me at 4 years old looking at the Batmobile, the little Matchbox, the Corgi model, the original. And that was 1969. So I had never seen anything like that. I mean, for the few years that I was alive, I was always looking at cars, but nothing stood out so much. And I think what it did was it just triggered that idea of uniqueness. And I was like, I've never seen this before, and I want to keep seeing things like this. And even to this day, my wife got me a $22 million car for $1.
That's awesome.
The Matchbox.
It's a 1956 Aston Martin DBR1. They only made 5. That's it. And she saw this last week, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen a Matchbox car in like 40 years. Even though my kids have different kinds of cars as toys, it just brought me back to the Batmobile. I was like, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Because the love of car design.
Totally. And how would you describe your art?
Well, I'm always looking for the pop, for the, like, sort of what I would call a supernova, an explosion of color, shape, composition. I really like tight compositions, but in that composition, I want the color to really pop out. And that's why I think I really work well with the blacks. I like to see a lot of black in my images, and then I just push the light colors up front. That satisfies me. I don't know if it does for everybody else, but it's in my own head, I do it for my own pleasure.
Tell me about the process.
The process, it's not a complicated process, neither is it tedious, but it takes days on in Photoshop. And I mean like 8-hour days, 3, 4, 5 days sometimes. And I have to keep going back to it. So when I take an image, I see the intense colors in my mind, but I haven't seen them in reality. So I'm never satisfied with what I see through the camera, but I'm always projecting at that moment, this is what the potential that it has. So to get that potential, it takes me a long time, but it's really more about saturation and contrast, and how I move that up and down. And then after a day's work, I'll let it go and I have to cleanse my palette for a while, because it can go too, if it gets too saturated, then it's going somewhere else. It's not, then it becomes kind of gimmicky almost in a way. I always want to bring it to the threshold, because I paint as well. I paint, I sculpt, I make my own t-shirts, skateboards. I'm a sort of a Renaissance man in all these things. And I take from all those disciplines and I put them into my photography, because I want it to kind of look almost like a painting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And so the threshold, is this a painting or is this a photograph? I like that play in the mind.
Yeah, I personally love your piece titled "The Eyes" on our RAVE site. That was my favorite. We posted that to social today. I think it's just, I love the colors so much.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. This fantastic show. All right, take care.
we'll see you at a live event soon. All right, Laura. Next up is James Patterson. Let's bring James in. James is joining us from a small town 2 hours north of Toronto. So I imagine it's cold and dark. Hi, Lynn. Is James there?
Yes, yes.
Video button and you're off mute already.
Start video.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, shoot.
there we are.
Yeah, okay, I gotta get you turned around.
Hey, James.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. There's some whimsy. So James.
Hi.
Quit cranking and tell us tell us about growing up at the Kensington Market area of Toronto with all the bakeries, bohemian shops, and art galleries, and with all those bakeries, how you stayed so thin.
I stayed thin, running away from the tough guys in the neighborhood. That beautiful place to grow up, a very diverse neighborhood. And my parents ran an inner city mission that was an outreach to immigrant families. So it was really the hub of the neighborhood. My dad was sort of known by everybody, and just a magical place to live. I remember we had a big gymnasium attached to the building, and we lived up in an apartment above it. And I remember there's a cultural group of Portuguese dancers. They were from the Azores, and they would come, and I think it was on Wednesday nights, they would practice their folk dancing in the gymnasium, and they danced barefoot, and they had these beautiful costumes on and no electric instruments. They, just all hand instruments. And I remember going to sleep at night, listening to that, the thumping of their feet on the floor and the swirling and the moving and the yells. And it was just a powerful, wonderful place to live.
That's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about how you construct your pieces?
Yeah, they're built from wire. And I'll show you one here that's just in the works. With a lot of them, I start with a base, start in with the uprights, and then just start adding and building And a lot of this, the structure of this really goes back to my days growing up in the Kensington market with the beautiful old Victorian row houses that were then turned into, family stores on the main floor, and the family would live above. And there was an old fire hall on the corner of the street that I lived on that had a really tall tower. So a lot of that kind of imagery comes in, but I start figuring out pretty early where I want the movement to be and to go. And I start adding the wheels in, and then just build and construct. In a lot of ways, the whole piece tells me what to do after a certain point. It speaks to me and just begins to tell stories, and I build according to that. And then get up to the this stage where I have all the mechanics figured out and the whole piece is working. And then I just start, finishing it off from there. I take the pulleys are all wooden. I take them out. I have the whole skeleton powder coated, and then I put it back together and then start adding in the color that you see in a piece like this. And that's really where the story comes in. The look of the stained glass windows in the church I went to. I was an altar boy in a church. I like the contrast of like in the church, there was a lot of dark and light contrast that was very beautiful. But then, the neighborhood and I guess my own disposition is light, whimsical, joyful. I like the pieces to exude joy, to give people delight. And it was always really neat at the shows, the Redwood shows, where people would come into the booth, they'd see them and say, "Oh, I love your work, it's gorgeous." And I'd say, "Well, touch it." And they say, "Oh, we can't do that, we don't touch art." I said, "No, touch it right here." And then they would turn, and then their faces would just light up, like just seeing the movement occur. So the color itself and the shapes and the forms, the story it's telling, I think bring people to one level of joy. But then once it starts moving, I think it just takes people to another level. And it over and over, I've had people say, "Oh, this is how I dreamed when I was a child. This is what I saw when I was a child." And I mean, for a while, we had people coming in every show. There'd be at least one person that came in and would just start weeping, start crying, because they just felt it was taking them back to, to things deep within themselves that I guess were being repressed, and they wanted, this was releasing. It was just giving them joy. Here's the houses on the street that I grew up on. The Portuguese people in particular, coming from the Azores, they just painted these old Victorian houses with really bright colors. It was just beautiful to see. And I've obviously exaggerated them a bit, the way mind works and memory works. And this is me flying my bike down the street.
Well, that's cool. I think Cindy Lou Who lives in that top house. Hey, I want to thank you for creating almost like an exhibitor booth at the show, because that white background really makes everything pop. You did a great job there.
Thank you. If I move too slightly against the table, the whole thing may crumble and fall. But I guess your viewers would remember my booth as a result.
Right.
So you draw a lot of inspiration from your childhood. So when did you create your first piece?
I've been I'd like to feel I've been an artist my whole life. I started my career full-time as an artist in '88, so 33 years ago. This particular series, I was a painter, and I just sort of, after 20 years, I had enough. I was really tired. My wife, a long story short, my wife and I ended up in Germany with our two younger children, took a sabbatical. And it was over there when I'd left sort of everything at home behind that this wire sculpture emerged. And one thing that really impressed me, I've always liked moving stuff. And just like the previous artist, George, that was talking about, I was fascinated with cars as a boy, and then with bicycles and motorcycles. And in Europe, I saw the line shaft and pulley drive system that they used to use in old factories, where you had a shaft running down the center up high with pulleys on it. And then belts would run off it to run different machines that people were operating. And I just thought, what a neat way of connectedness within one large plant or organism almost. And that really inspired me to have these machines set up in such a way where you have one drive system here going up and spreading out and running, motorizing, basically activating all sorts of different elements that move within it. And in many ways, it's sort of like us as a society, right? There's, one person drives another person who drives another person. We're all interconnected. We all work together, and something beautiful is created out of it. I like the industrial look too. Even just using the crisscrosses. The house that we lived in the Kensington Market had a fire escape up the side of it because our apartment was up above where this gymnasium was. And I remember with my brother when we were quite young, climbing up these crisscross members that held the fire escape together. So all of this is really coming back to me from when I was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old.
Well, thanks, James. This has been great. And I think you've given some real nice insight into your thinking and your construction of your pieces to our audience. And I hope they enjoyed it. I did.
Oh, good. I just really want to, bring joy and delight. There's a lot of darkness, and I think that, light work that ignites something within people, reawakens the child within them. I think it's important, worthwhile doing, and I like bringing that pleasure to people, especially when they can touch it and move it themselves.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see your next pieces at our next live event, hopefully in the summer or so of 2021. So thanks for being with us tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I've just really enjoyed the Redwood shows. Rick got me into them, and he really encouraged me. And I just missed the whole bunch of you seeing you at the shows and having fun together.
We do too. Yeah.
We'll be back together soon. Good to see you. Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
All the best from Canada.
All right. Laura, next up. Oh, you can check out James's work in his booth on the RAVE site. And next up is Walter Redondo. So Walter, when you come on, take us off mute and click on the video.
Okay, there we go. Am I on?
Almost. Are you on your phone?
Yeah, I am.
I think you swipe to the right, with an iPhone.
Let me see.
Maybe video should activate. Now you got us on mute again.
Let me see something here.
Well, I'm going to give everybody a little background on Walter Redondo. Well, he's not technically savvy. He's a hell of a tennis player.
I'll get this somehow. Am I there yet?
No, we can't see yet. Help him, Laura.
Okay. Share screen. Let me see. There we go.
There we
There
go.
you are.
All right.
Where's your beanie?
Yeah, I know. I'm so familiar with wearing a hat, being on the court, and then even off the court. I just have always enjoyed wearing a hat. But I thought today I'd do something different.
So I'm going to start our conversation by telling a little story. So one of the shows we own is Art San Diego. And I don't know, 5 years, 6 years ago, I had to fly to, during the course of our show, I had to fly to Chicago from San Diego. And then I flew back like 2 days later. I think it was Friday night. And Chris Marsh from UBS, who's our sponsor in San Diego, says, Eric, you got to meet this guy over here in the booth. And I had flown back wearing tennis gear. That's all I normally wear is tennis clothes. And I wasn't dressed for the show or anything, but I thought I'd just drop by and hang out in the show office. And Chris is like, no, you got to meet these people. So he introduces me to Walter. And I'm a big tennis player and big tennis fan. So I'm like, oh yeah, Walter, the Redondo family in San Diego. And I'm meeting Walter and I go, well, what brings you here? Oh, I love art. And so we're sitting there talking for like half an hour. And all of a sudden he looks at me and goes, so what do you do? I go, well, I do art fairs. I own this one. He's like, no way. And then that was it. We've got art in common and tennis in common. Not my skill level isn't as good as Walter's, but we have those two things in common and become friends since then. So
yes.
So
So Walter, did you begin painting before or after your tennis career?
That's a great question. You know, I actually started around the same time. You know, my grandmother got us started in tennis. The family, there were 9 of us. So the way to keep us off the streets was to get us involved in the sport. Though I found myself enjoying art after I found my brother drawing in the bedroom. And so I'm walking down the hallway and I go into the room and I realize, wow, okay, I'm going to draw this, and it ended up coming out to be just like my brother's work, except, you know, I'm going to say better. And that's when I realized I really, really liked art and I could do it. And I think what I liked about it was not necessarily the thing of being able to do it, but I liked the creativity of it. I liked being able to just let go and just be, you know, just use my imagination in some way. And I think a little bit of that goes into the tennis. You know, when we think about being on the court, for me, you know, we start learning a technique, and then sooner or later we have to let go of the technique, and then we just have to start playing tennis. And so with art, that is something that I think, with me being not necessarily trained, but have enjoyed art over the years, I've always just kind of looked and just had a passion for just wanting to dive in and just explore more of what was happening within me. And I started with a lot of realism at one time, and people would say, Walter, you need to stick with the realism because I think you could really do well. But inside for myself, I think I needed to be a lot more expressive. And so I thought, you know, just getting free, just doing whatever it might be, and being connected, a little bit more in tune with what was going on inside was really important to me.
It was funny. I remember after we met, I had some work to do in Florida, and I flew out there and I had a meeting with Mary Ann Cohen. I know her. She's terrific. So
she's amazing.
Yeah, I walk into I've known Mary Ann for 30 years. I walk into Mary Ann's gallery, and we're sitting there talking, and I look over and I go, is that Walter Redondo's work? And she goes, do you know Walter Redondo? And I go, of course I do. I said, I met him a while ago. We played tennis together. And you know, Mary Ann's daughter was a star tennis player.
Oh my gosh, yes, I understand. Amazing. I think she won NCAAs a couple times, I think, if I remember correctly, and then went on to go play professionally as well, but ended up being a coach.
He's a coach at a college in Texas. I can't remember.
I forget the name of the school, but every time I had the opportunity to talk with Marion, I absolutely enjoy it because she loves incorporating a little bit more of the tennis and things. And she coaches me through a few things, you know, as I'm kind of painting. And then, you know, just having the opportunity to speak tennis and art is always enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
Because there's so much similarity. I mean, I think I've shared this with you before. I mean, you know, just like a musician starts with one note, ends with one note. Tennis is the same thing, one stroke, you know, on the beginning of a match and the end of a match, and then on canvas. And I really enjoyed the process of that in between. I think that became very important to me. And when I've spoken to individuals about what I do, I seem to always work the center of the canvas. And so when I think about working the center of the court, it's kind of where we construct points. Mm-hmm. And then when we have the opportunity to move a ball outward a little bit outside the center of the court, it starts something that's pretty dynamic between both players because we're really trying to control the court. So this is the same thing where I think when I think about painting, I'm working the center of the canvas a lot, though I'm always aware of what's happening on the outside, you know, whether I'm using the creams and the light tones to enhance the center. You know, it's that place where when we do get on the court, we start off in the center of the court with a serve. And so we take control from the center right away if we're on the offense, which is serving. So that's kind of, you know, my approach to a little bit of how I look at a canvas. And then on top of that, getting a little bit more free, kind of releasing hopefully any kind of technique or any thought process that is occurring and just wanting to basically touch base with what's going on inside. And I think the beauty of that is, I think like life, tennis or competition seems to bring out a couple things or some things, whether it be a fear or of some sort or something alive that's happening. Some people just love competition. Some people are kind of, you know, they're fearful of it. So I think when we start to understand kind of what's going on in there, and to be able to dive in and find out why and what's going on, it's really beautiful. So anyway, this is why I really do art. I just love that whole creative thing and being able to go inside.
Yeah, and you do well at it. I remember what Marion actually said to me. She goes, I go, is that Walter Redondo's work? She goes, he's the real deal. He loves your work. Yeah, it's funny. And I guess I'll tell the audience one more thing, that my wife Kelly also plays tennis. And when Walter comes over to visit us, we'll get out on the court and he and I'll hit, and then we'll bring in some other people, and he hits with Kelly, and he's just so zen about teaching and being patient. And Kelly, you're doing so well. And I'm completely the opposite, like, get ready, get your racket. And she's like, can't you be more like Walter?
It is fun out there with everybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the energy and everything is just wonderful.
Well, your paintings are terrific. We have one hanging on our wall here. I can't wait to see you again soon, and do Art San Diego again next year for sure.
Yeah, be great.
I encourage everybody to check out Walter's work on our site, on our RAVE site. It's fantastic. It's abstract, but you know, there's some subject matters in there that really tie together in your titles and stuff. So it's wonderful.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And thank you for everything that you do for myself and all the artists. You're just a gem and amazing. So thank you. We'll see ya.
Yeah.
All right, Laura. Where are we heading next? Let's head over to Miami and chat with contemporary art projects. That's how you would look at this artist's work on our site. Louis Kualani. Louis is originally from Hawaii, who now lives in Miami, and he's part of Contemporary Art Projects, a gallery down in Miami. They do quite a few of our shows. Hey, Louis, hit the video. There you are.
There you are. Hi.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm from Hawaii.
I know.
So nice to see you again.
You too. How are you?
Really good, really good. Working. I just stopped to talk to you and you guys. I'm working. Yeah, I have a lot of pieces to deliver before Christmas.
So you're in your studio.
So, yeah, I'm in my studio, in one of my studios, and wow, been a hard 3 last months. Yes, it'll be really, really hard, but that's good. If you count what's happening or the pandemic and whatever, yeah, it's not. I mean, it's been hard, but not too hard in terms of my work.
Well, look, if you're busy and you got to get pieces out the door before Christmas, it means you're selling. And my hat's off to you. That's good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
We got a few questions for you. So when did you become an artist? And you're going to tell me all my life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 18 years ago. It was my hobby all my life. So I'm 57. And last 18 years, I'm being 24/7 artist.
And
which is,
what'd you do before that?
I was in the computer business for a long time. And so I'm kind of different of the normally artists come to be an artist first, and then I'm vice versa. First I was a businessman, and then I go into the art business or whatever and do it my one of life. And so it was kind of hard at the beginning. 18 years ago, nobody want to see your art, your pieces, and then you start step by step showing. And when you show to the galleries don't want to see you because they have a lot of artists and you're the beginner. So, but well, I start thinking, how come I'm going to do this to live a living form? And then I start making a plan. They say, okay, if I'm in business, I know how business goes.
Yeah.
So let me do it, this, and I need a product. So, but I'm an artist. So it's not kind of easy to process in your mind. So I have a switch here. So I switch it business to artist. That's the secret. If you don't have it, you have to do two works. You have to have a part-time as a medic or run a fair or be at a galleries or be a dentist, whatever, and then you have to be an artist. If you don't have that switch, it's impossible. It's impossible. If you see an artist, and you see a lot of them with excellent art, beautiful pieces, and they are part-time artists, just imagine what they can do if they will be full-time artists. So that's the hard part. Be a full-time artist, but you have remember that the switch. You have to have that switch in your brain here and use it. It's the only way you can make this successfully, and you can live from the art. So that's what at the beginning. How I told you, it wasn't easy. It's not easy right now, but you know how to do it. You know how to approach. You know how to spoke with galleries, talk to them, talk to the fairs, and interact with them. And you need it in this career. This is a job, like yours, like her, and everybody else. You need to go to your workspace every single day. You have to open the door, say, I'm here. That's what I do in my studio. And if you don't have any idea or whatever you have to clean, you have to see what your bills are or whatever you have in, because this is a job. That's right. Simple. We are not those kind of, person who walks on the skies between the stars and no. Artists, some of them, they believe that, but not me. No. You have to be on air, down on air, and know and have clearly in your mind that this is a job. Okay, yeah. A beautiful one. It is. We bring joy to people, and as you asked me yesterday about what people love the most about my pieces, and then I give you an answer. But then when I get home, I say, hey, but it's not correct what I say, because and I ask my daughter, she's in law school, and she say, what do you love the most of my piece? I say, hey, Dad, it's a lot of things. And they say, you're right, a lot of things. It's the color, it's the size. Sometimes it's the place where it's placed. When you see it, maybe in a product space, and you say, oh, wow, look, that's that beautiful piece. It's not about the piece. It's a whole thing. It's a motivation. It's something that you feel like when you hear the song that you like, you don't even know the lyrics, but you like it. And then why? Because it's going to you, you feel it. And that's what my sculptors, I'm looking to transmit or whatever they do to you. That's the whole thing. It's not this. It's because here it's not color. This is a material. So maybe in the future will be done. I don't know. But now it's just wood sticks.
Right.
But in the future, maybe it will be 15 feet long, 7 feet tall, and and wide. I don't know. That's. Yep.
And then you're going to bring it to one of our shows, and Jeff is going to say, "Oh my God, how am I going to get that through the door?" Right?
Yeah. That's right.
You're so right about this year has been just so tough for artists, because the viewers, I don't know if all the viewers know this, but in today's world, galleries and artists get about half of their revenue by attending art or exhibiting at art fairs. 40 to 50% of their revenue comes in because you know, we have 42,000 people come into our show in Miami. We have 40,000 people come to the show in New York. You know, like 7,000 in Santa Fe and 8,000 here in Dallas, and we have them all over. And when people come in, that's how they interact, and they look at work, and then they follow up on it. You know, they either buy or they follow up a couple months later and buy. And so you've got to now get up in the morning and pick up the phone and look for collectors, and it's a big job. Yeah, yeah, that was really well done.
Yeah. So, and you know what? There is another. I mean, there is in the industry there are another levels of ceiling venues. Maybe, you know, in this moment in Miami, they're selling a lot of high-end properties. I mean, over 7 million, 10, 12, 30, 23, and whatever. And they are selling so fast.
Yeah.
And those people are buying art. Really, really, really buying art. At this moment, it's incredible, but it is. It is. And it's hard to believe because what is happening around the world. But it's the real thing. It's happening right now. Right now. It's incredible. I mean, it's incredible. But you have to look, and you have to know where to look and who to talk to. And the first, it's one. It's like a table. You know, you have four, and you have fairs, galleries, interior designers, and a lot of things. Right in the fourth one, a bunch of people inside them. Not only the collectors, just people who wants to have a piece of art. You don't have to look only to the collectors. I always said, just collectors in the world are less than a 0.0 in the world. But people with houses, with money or whatever, 350 million people in the US.
Yeah.
So we have to look to everyone, not just to the collectors. They are good. They're good. But at the beginning, I'm not a master. I'm just an artist. And people, maybe at the beginning, they don't want to collect you, what you said before, but they want to have one of your pieces, just one. And then that's the way you start.
Yep.
And then you start, and then it's step by step, and then they have you in their houses, and they look at you, and they remember you, and they call you.
Right.
They call you. I do a lot of corporate small pieces that I sell. And then I sell it for a little bit, I mean, it's a really, really good price. But what is the point there? Why do you sell those pieces at that lower price? Because I want the most people to have one. That my first contract was with HBO 5 years ago. And they bought 45 pieces. Okay, where are those pieces going? Well, CEOs, VPs, and all the people on the company. So sometimes maybe they will call me in the future because they see the pieces over their desk or whatever. Hey, I got a sculpture to my house. Maybe this guy can do it for me. I'm there already. So that's the point. That's business.
Yeah, Anna nailed it. The switch is always on. Well, Luis,
okay.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you for your support.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
We encourage everybody to look at Luis's pieces. They're big. Some of them are big, and they're absolutely beautifully constructed sculptures. Laura, let's head over to Hugo Diaz, also in Miami. I met Hugo at Art Expo New York. His work kind of stopped me in my tracks. I was headed back to our education seminar, and hey, you guys, they had a small booth near the education seminar. Yeah, you guys, no, you don't have to mute. You can unmute.
Okay. Hello, Rick.
You have to hit your video.
It's Eric. Oh yeah, how are you?
Hit your video so we can see.
Yes. This is low. One moment, please.
So I saw Hugo's work and stopped in my tracks to take a look at it, and ended up talking to his wife and admiring the work. It's really well done.
Wait.
This is Hugo's work. It's under contemporary art projects. Yeah, this is his work. It's absolutely incredible, and really well done. And the next thing I know, he's been picked up by an art dealer at Contemporary Art Projects. There's Tata.
Hi, how are you? Hi, everybody.
Hi. I was just telling the story about Hugo's work 4 or 5 years ago at Art Expo and how I loved it. It's really well done.
You know, I pick up a good artist, right? From where I get it? From Art Expo, right?
And it's even better today. It's really matured over the last 3-4 years. And I think, Tata, we're going to surprise you. And Laura's got a surprise. We're going to play that 1-minute video on Hugo creating his work because I really loved it for the audience tonight. So, yeah, there it is. So we'll just take 1 minute. That's all it is.
Ya, ves que lo que están haciendo, ¿ves?
So what are you sawing up there? Those blocks? Yeah, it's very 3-dimensional. And I guess you would describe it as optic at the same time.
Everything is 3-dimensional and also it's mirror image. The idea is to print and actually in two, I would say with 2 layers, as you can see there, and they actually mirror image to see it like in 3 dimensions. That's the idea of the kinetic, right?
Yeah. I introduced where by means of geometric elements, the juxtaposition of colors, the technology of materials and other elements, such as artificial natural light. The domain of the dimensions in the physical architectural space, such as floors, walls, ceilings, etc. They play an important role in the creation of my work to beautify interior and exterior spaces. I see integrating my artistic proposal in buildings, parks, and for the enjoyment of people, in addition to contributing to the culture of the community.
What I'm planning to do with him now in this time is, as you can see, a lot of the airports, okay, they are doing a big call for artists to actually to enhance the airport. If you go to the Chicago airport, they have a big 3-dimension sculpture when you walk into the Chicago airport, the O'Hare. Therefore, what he's trying to do, and then we are trying to do at this point, is to have like to develop kinetic space where the children can walk through through the work, as you can see there, and also they can have the benches people can see and sit down into it, as well as when you go into the buildings, as you can see, people can walk through the kinetic sculpture and then get to the building.
That's awesome.
Actually, we are proposing this special one for a call for artists from one of the airports in Fort Lauderdale Airport in Miami. I mean, Miami area, which is Fort Lauderdale. I'm doing this with him through call for artists, as you know.
We'll make sure that we record this video, send it to you, and you can send it to all the airports.
I will. I hope to make that money, right? But actually, it's the second level, you know, these different levels, as Soto never really did it, or Cruz Diaz really did it at this level because they died.
Yeah. And those are permanent installations, which would be fantastic.
Correct. They will be permanent installation. The cities actually, they work together, you know, with the airports and the federal government to actually to provide grants to the artists to do these types of installations.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, we spent part of the summer in Park City, and I went to Salt Lake City to pick up this one here, and they just did the whole Salt Lake City airport is all brand new. They just did it was a whole terminal that they just reopened, and an artist out of Northern California did it. I can't remember his name, but yeah, pretty spectacular. Good luck on that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, okay.
I absolutely love Hugo's work, and at the beginning, Tata, I was just telling the story about, you know, finding him at Art Expo, and
actually I found in the same place as you did.
I know.
Okay, and another thing is, like Luis was talking to you in previous, we're trying to dedicate now to a different levels because people are not walking into the galleries anymore, but also a lot of collectors are out of towns as well. Therefore, I call them the new rich, the one that who buys the $10 million apartment, $20 million apartment in Miami. They never saw a sculpture in their life. They never see anything. And then you go there, you're staging the work for them, and they end buying because a lot of them, they live in Europe or they live, Hugo does a lot of stagings. I do a lot of staging with Luis as well. We also are trying to hit now these developers. For example, we have one in Missouri that we're doing with Luis. You know, I'm just trying to show to the dealers that today we cannot wait for the collectors to get to our doors. The art is different. I don't sell Picassos, you know, that people go into an auction to get it. You know, I sell new emerging artists that we need to approach to the clients.
Right.
We don't deal with collectors in the way. And then I tell, you know, my experience for the 3 past years is I sell a lot more in this type of projects than what I really sell waiting in the gallery, in the office, waiting for the collectors to arrive. Also, I will tell to every single dealer, maybe a lot of them they're doing, get the best friend today is our interiors designers. They are the ones that are in contact with all this type of publics that you can like really buyers, that you can really go there and talk for you. And then you offer them what they want. They want an abstract for $3,000 or they want a sculpture for $10,000.
Good idea. Well, thanks for introducing us to Hugo's work again. I love it, and I encourage everybody watching to go to Contemporary Art Project and look at the work. And
maybe we'll get in the airport when you land in Miami. Bye.
Bye, Tata. Bye, Hugo. Okay.
Let's look at some of our spotlight artists for RAVE Miami.
Yeah. So Laura, is Gary on? See if we can bring in Gary Tracy. So.
Yes, he is.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
So the audience knows Gary's a fireman, and he works in the Miami area, and he's also a fantastic sculptor. Hey, Gary.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So,
Chime in.
Gary, I know you're at work. And you must not have any emergencies right now, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so if someone comes in the door and they're making jokes and bantering and playing around, or you know for a fact I am at work. So I'm in the gym at work, so no one's walked in yet, so we're doing pretty good.
Okay. So fireman to artist, how does that happen? Well, you're still a fireman, so. But
yeah, so I mean, I pretty much been involved in arts my whole life. I started off in martial arts, and from martial arts, excuse me, I went to a conservatory in Miami called New World School of the Arts, and I was involved in theater, and obviously, you know, the martial arts was very important in just studying art. But in the meantime, when I was a child, I grew up in Italy, and my father took me to all the museums and everything because I spent 5 years in Italy. So I had a very large influence in the arts as a child growing up. And then when I attended New World School of the Arts, it's a conservatory. And that was more of theater art. And then back in college, I started studying art and Renaissance art. And I moved back to Italy and studied Renaissance art and charcoals and stuff like that before eventually getting into stainless steel from a friend's father that I worked with for a few months in the summer. So I started my fire career at that time, and the fire department allows me, you know, basically I'm off 20 days a month to mess around with art. And that's kind of how I evolved as an artist.
Perfect.
That's
And
great.
we're gonna, I know you're not in your studio or anything, but
Right.
Laura will show some of your pieces to the audience in a bit. And we've only got about 2 minutes with you tonight, but I'm gonna,
okay,
because we're running out of time, but
Yeah, and you're an artist in your free time, but you also do a lot of charity work, right?
Yes, I'm involved in a lot of charity work, organ donation, the Life Alliance Project, the breast cancer awareness, Autism Speaks, anything involved in health, education, just charity in general. A lot of friends of mine have been afflicted with certain diseases and their family members. So I feel that it's very important to be involved with the community, and living here in Miami, I'm part of that. And especially being a firefighter paramedic, you know, we do have a lot of firefighters that do come down with cancer. So,
right.
Yeah. So that's one of the main things that keeps me, you know, trying to strive for perfection, and being involved in the health and the arts is because, you know, I just get so much joy out of giving art to these charities and individuals that are afflicted with disease. And, you know, I'm very fortunate that I can create something for them. So I feel very blessed.
that's really nice.
Thank you.
I know that my wife Kelly loves your work because she DM'd you or something the other day. I remember seeing it, and it said, "She's like, oh, Terry, I love this piece. How much is it?" And all he writes back is priceless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I told you to tell her, you know, I have to call her, but it was very sweet. And that piece was actually an open heart, and it was made for a friend of mine. He was the person who pushed me, you know, to create it in the amount of time I did. He had a 5-organ transplant. So it was an open heart, which it's, when you look at it, any angle you look at that sculpture, you're going to be able to see a reflection of yourself, and you're going to see the heart is open. And I always say that's an open heart, open mind, and open arms to everyone. And that piece is very special. And the fortunate thing is it went to a beautiful, you know, charity, and it'd be shown throughout the country and world, you know, as people donate their organs, and they lose loved ones and they gain loved ones. So that's the beautiful thing about it. The thing that kind of stinks is that I would never make one again. And I would like it in my own home because I do love the piece. It just evolved over a couple of weeks. And then I worked at it for 16 hours straight, got the concept. And when I finished it and I gave it away, it was a great moment, but at the same time, it was heartbreaking because I really wanted that piece for myself. And then it's funny where Kelly writes me and says, "Hey, Gary, how much is that piece?" I was like, "It's priceless. I can't even make one for myself. I can't buy it for me, you know?" And so I told her we'll do another heart for her. I'm sure she wants to do something special for you, Eric. So it was very, very sweet of her, and I thank her.
Well, thanks for being with us, and thanks for all of your charity work, and thanks for protecting Miami from fires. And you did a great job tonight. So.
I appreciate it. And, you know, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to talk.
All right.
All right. You guys stay safe.
You too.
Take care.
All right, Laura. If you want to check out Gary's work, I think his is also under Contemporary Art Projects. Yeah, he's represented by Tata. We're going to go over to Jackie Fuchs in the Hamptons and chat with her for a minute. Hi, Jackie. Take us off mute and hit your video. Hi, Jackie.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
This is going. I'm loving your artists.
Good.
So, Jackie, you've been a full-time artist for not very long now, right?
Yeah, it's about 3.5 years actually. I I've always been an artist, and I was an art teacher. And when I was a child and I got 75 cents allowance, I would go into the hardware store and buy some nuts and bolts and create collages and sculptures out of, you know, whatever I can get my hands on. I would take apart the TV and the radio. They weren't fond of that, but
That's when they had those bulbs in there, right?
yes, exactly. I don't know. I couldn't put it together again, but I took things apart. And so, yeah, so for the past 3.5 years, I've been painting and collaging. I didn't know that that was in me. I was sculpting for 45 years. And this came out of me after a visit to the Barnes Foundation. And I was reminded of this Modigliani that I saw, and a replica hung over my parents' bedroom, bed in their bedroom, and I hated the thing. The long neck bothered me, and I came home and I thought, I wonder if I can paint. And I just picked up the paintbrush and I created these long neck women. And then it became my signature, recognizable, you know, like if you saw my art in one of your art fairs or anywhere, people know now that it's Jackie Fuchs. So I'm really happy about that.
For sure. You know, we were discussing that earlier about how you know a Picasso is a Picasso and a Monet. And I can see that piece behind you on the wall, and obviously it's a Jackie Fuchs piece. And just so the audience knows, you know, Jackie does a number of our shows, and the last show we did was Red Dot and Spectrum Miami. We had about 40,000 people through there. Jackie had a booth in the center of the show and sold all but one piece in her entire booth. It was spectacular. So the work sells really well. It's well constructed, it's identifiable, and it's well priced. And you've done a great job building your career in the art business in a quick 3.5 years.
Thank
Really
you.
well
Yeah,
done.
I also have the gift to sell other people's art as well. And so I became a curator in the last 2 years. And while I had solo shows at your art fairs, of late, I guess for the last 1.5 years, I've been doing group shows, you know, with some fabulous artists that are on your platform as well. And I sell all the time. I create shows. When in the middle of pandemic, I created about 8 different shows safely outdoors in gardens, and I invite artists, you know, being on both sides of it, selling art and making art, and also having an eye for what I like to show is mid-century or street art or contemporary, abstract, and I love photorealism. So I have a few photorealists in my booth, and my art, I don't have to sell it. It because of your shows, I became recognizable even when I was in booths with other gallerists.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really great. It's been so much fun.
And I invite the audience to go check out your booth here on the RAVE site. It's called Studio Jackie. And if those of you that were with us last night, you met Tyson Knight, and Tyson's part of Studio Jackie in that gallery. Yeah. Well, Jackie.
Yes.
I want to wish you a happy holiday, and let's hope this pandemic ends soon and we get to see each other at another live event soon.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And before we go, I gotta say I'm a pretty big fan of one of your collectors from New York.
Oh, okay, yeah. I live in the Hamptons part-time, and so out here there's a lot of celebrities, and some of my collectors are Broadway producers of big shows, really big. Well, if you're on Broadway, it's a big show, but shows that have stayed open for years. And one of my collectors, who I'm sure does not mind me saying so, Luann, housewife of New York, the Countess, she has been collecting me since I started, and she always plugs me in her videos and her Instagram and her social media. So it's really nice to have her as part of my collection, collectors, because people tend to like to buy things that other people have give permission to, especially with myself. I'm an emerging art. I was emerging and then I arrived, but how big is my scope? It needs to be bigger than what it is. And so those collectors, you never know who's in their house. It's really nice to, and I've gifted her some work also.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, yes. So
Well,
thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Jackie. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you. Thanks.
Hey, Laura, let's go to our last artist, Eric Jensen. And we're right on time. Hey, Eric.
Hello.
Hello.
There you are. Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
So the last time we talked, you mentioned to me that art is my first language. Tell us more about that.
So I was born deaf, so I have a cochlear implant. That's why I have an accent. So my accent, not from anywhere. It's from Salt Lake City, Utah. But anyway, I was born deaf, and my I struggle speaking. So I always made things, and I always put things together to communicate. I didn't speak my first full sentence until I was 5 years old. I didn't learn sign language until I was older. I went to the school for the deaf and learned sign language there. And then I just spoke with my parents, reading lips and things like that. And then later on, I got my implant when I was 13. And so so I just felt like art was always my language, because English or sign language was never there for me. And so art was always there for me, and it still is today.
And you were a teacher, right?
Yes, so I taught high school art before I quit that and became an artist. I always wanted to do the art, but it was kind of, people always look down at it. And so I was like, I guess I'll just go do art education. And I loved it, but I wasn't satisfied. And so I started doing the arts at nighttime and Saturdays, and just kind of grew it. And it became an income. And I was like, well, I'm going to go quit teaching. And I just quit. And I take apart keyboards and I dye them into different colors. That's what you see, all these colors. They're all computer keys. I soak them in dye. And I just started realizing how cool it was to take apart something that was garbage and to make it beautiful again. And it just called me to do it. And I was like, I just got to keep doing this. And so I just kept growing and kept growing. And now I do thousands of keys, thousands of keyboards. I have collectors all over that sent me recycled keyboards. And I get thousands of keyboards a month, and I can't keep up with it. So it's been so fun.
That's awesome. Laura, why don't you put a few of Eric's pieces up while we continue talking to him. So I know you have a gift of merging technology and art. And I remember you telling me that Facebook acquired one of your pieces, right?
See, you froze.
So Eric, can you hear me? No, I don't think he can, Laura. So let's go back to Eric. Those are so awesome. Hey, there we are. So Eric, I know you have a gift of merging tech and art, and I think Facebook acquired one of your pieces, right?
Say that again?
I think Facebook bought one of your pieces.
Yes. So one of the things that's been fun, because I really get excited about helping the work world are boring, and offices are so boring. And so I try to sell to techie people and try to get them to collect art. And it's been fun to convert them into art collectors. They're like, oh, now I'm excited. I want to buy more art. I'm like, yeah, awesome. So it's a fun way to engage them. And so I've sold artwork all over to like Facebook was one. I did a huge one for a big tech company out in Boston, Akamai. They do all the software security stuff, and it was awesome. I did this huge map, a global map for them. It was like 20 feet long. It was just fun. And so it's just been really fun to be able to tap into a different kind of group of people and teach them how to collect art and get them excited. And it's been fun because most people don't understand painting. They're like, oh, that's great. But when they see a keyboard, they understand that everybody's had a story or that connection with the keyboard. And so I'm really excited to be able to engage people that have maybe never had that experience. And I've had other people that are very experienced in collecting art. And so it's been fun to be able to involve in different kinds of people in my journey in my art careers, different kinds of people. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, and you make smaller pieces, right?
Yeah, so for the holiday, I realized some of my collectors have never collected art before. So I decided I want to make something smaller for them to be able to have them give the opportunity. And I almost sold out almost all of them. I did 40 of them, 42 of them, and I sold like 30 of them in like the first 2 hours. So it's crazy to see them. And they were like, I've never been able to buy art. And so it's been a really fun, because what happened last year, I made a big piece of artwork and I zoomed out and somebody stole it and put it on Reddit. And it went viral. It got about 28 million views in a matter of months. And so I got a lot of people that are started to understand art and being interested in art. And so I was like, I knew that about the people that follow me or interested in my art, that they wanted something small to start. And so they're like, oh, now I want to buy a bigger one, So I think it's getting people starting small to build up the courage that they can buy original art. I think a lot of people get like, oh, I can only buy prints, I can't buy original. And it's like, no, you can, if it makes you happy and it makes you excited, you can buy an original art. And so just being there, and so I did that and it was really awesome. So, but it's been fun.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for joining us. And I want to tell you, your energy, spontaneity, your work is great. It's a joy
thank you.
to know you, and we want to wish you the happiest of holidays. And I couldn't have picked a better artist to end on, because I feel like I want to run out and play football or something right now, right? You've been great.
Well, I just get so excited, and so, but yeah, thanks for having us. Have a great holiday too.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Eric.
you.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us over the last 2 days. The show goes on, the Rave show, for the whole month of December. And, if you do purchase a piece and help these artists during this pandemic, you will receive one of the free dual diagnosis Gatsby prints, limited edition that they did of 50 pieces. Valued at $1,000, and you also get free freight on your work. So, there's like 4 more artists. I'm just going to mention their names because I love their work. Shima Shanti, San Diego artist. She does beeswax and fire. It's called Encaustic, and Shima's work is fantastic. She's been doing our shows for quite a long time and has got a great career. Fabio Delboni, another great artist. Carol Tippett Woolworth, and Marta Wiley. Marta's been doing our shows for like over 10 years. She's also a singer, and I just wanted to mention them and wish everybody a happy and safe holiday. And we hope to see you at a live event sometime in 2021.
Yeah, thank you all.
Bye-bye. Just goes dead silent, doesn't it?